Today we have an insane story about someone who smarted their way into a flight upgrade but was outsmarted out of it. We'll talk more on that story, but first, no refunds once you've stepped out of the store? Fine, I won't step out of the store. This happens in a large store in a European country. When you purchase something from them, and for any reason want to return the item, their policy is that they never give money back. They only give you a voucher redeemable same day only. I went to the store today and purchased quite a long list of items. I got home, my wife looks at them and says that we don't need some of them. I go back to the store, barely 20 minutes pass. The returns manager smiles at me as I tell her I just purchased these and would like to return them. She tells me that I stepped out of the store so she can't refund. Only give me a voucher and I must buy something else. I'd already bought everything I needed. Then she tells me to take the products home and keep them for the next time I would need to buy something. Then I can come and get the voucher and redeem it. Imagine keeping a pair of shoes and a bowl and remember to bring them with you the next time you happen to need something. I tried to reason, but she was adamant. Those are the rules. You stepped out of the store, you don't get a refund. And then it clicked. I asked, so if someone wants to return an item without leaving the store, they get the money back? Yes. You see where this is heading. Malicious compliance kicking in. I ask to return the items and get the voucher. I take the voucher, get inside the store, find a product to exactly same amount. Buy it with the voucher. Right after the cashier, there's the returns manager. Straight from the cashier I go to her, hand her that random product I just bought and say I would like to return this, don't want it. And I never left the store. She is looking at me with barely contained rage in her eyes. I kid you not. The awkward pause was getting longer. And then her manager comes along. Looks at us and I smile at him and say I never left the store and I would like to get a refund for this please. He nods. Silent and not looking at me, she proceeds to refund me the money in cash. Company policy, right? Micromanaging my lunch break? Enjoy the extra paperwork. Hey folks, I have a story of malicious compliance that I think you'll appreciate. This happened at my previous job, where my manager was the definition of a micromanager. At this job, we had an hour for lunch, but the break room was small, so people usually staggered their lunch breaks. It was an unspoken rule that as long as you didn't take more than an hour and your work didn't suffer, no one really cared when you took your lunch. That was until our new manager, let's call him Dave, stepped in. Dave decided that he needed to control when everyone took their lunch breaks. He created a strict schedule, assigning each person a specific lunch hour. My assigned time was right in the middle of my most productive part of the day, which was super frustrating. I decided to follow the new lunch schedule, but I also decided to take full advantage of my rights as an employee. You see, our company policy stated that any work done during our lunch break was considered overtime and needed to be compensated. So, I started to accidentally schedule meetings, calls, and tasks during my lunch break, making sure to meticulously document every minute of work I did. Then, at the end of the week, I'd submit a detailed overtime report to Dave, showing him all the extra work I did during my lunch hour. Dave was furious, but he couldn't deny my overtime requests without violating company policy. After a few weeks of paying me extra for work that I would have gladly done during my regular hours, Dave scrapped his strict lunch break schedule and let us go back to our old system. Business class upgrade if there is room. I used to work at a regional airline. The jet we used for our flight to the big city had 6 business class seats. The business class service was really good for a 2-hour flight. It included a full bar service, a hot meal, warmed bread basket, followed by a trolley with dessert and signature coffee. The good old days. One of our regular travelers was a local business owner who was just a slimy businessman, SB. He had a reputation for making a lot of money from some pretty shady deals over the years. We would roll our eyes when we saw him coming to the check-in counter because he would always name drop and ask for special treatment. He always used the business class check-in line even though he was usually in economy. He didn't have frequent flyer status, but he was buddies with one of the airline executives and always let us know this fact when he checked in by making sure to tell us that he was good friends with Vice President Karen. He would always ask for free upgrades, extra baggage, not charging a change fee, last-minute discounts, etc. If he didn't get what he wanted, he immediately called VP Karen, who would usually then call us and approve whatever it was he wanted. So one day SB checks in for his flight to the big city and of course name drops and asks for a free upgrade to business class because I'm friends with VP Karen and said it would be okay. He was traveling on a discounted ticket that was not eligible for upgrade even if he did have an upgrade coupon, which he didn't. I informed him that he was not eligible for any upgrade on this ticket and gave him his boarding pass and sent him on his way. Of course he flips open his cell phone and immediately calls VP Karen. Within 2 minutes the phone at the check-in desk rings and it's VP Karen authorizing me to override the policy to upgrade SB to business class with no upgrade coupon required if there is room. The flight that day wasn't that busy and only one person booked in business class, leaving 5 open seats. I was really irritated, but I begrudgingly put SB on the upgrade list anyways. He returned to the check-in counter and picked up his standby boarding card and gave me that smug told you so look. But then what VP Karen said clicked with me, if there is room. The next passenger I checked in was a super nice lady, big smile, friendly, please and thank you. Oh, thank you so much for checking my bags to my connecting flight, that's so nice of you. I was taking my time and we were chatting a bit since it wasn't that busy. She was a teacher going on a trip to see her family and it was her first visit with them in over a year and was going to meet her new little nephew for the first time. She was overjoyed just to have the time off to travel. I typed in a few things into the computer to make it look like I was checking something about her connecting flights and then said, oh, you have been selected today to receive a free upgrade to business class. She was shocked. I've never flown business class in my life. This is so amazing. At that time we were rarely questioned if we upgraded someone without a certificate. Over the next 20 minutes I found excuses to upgrade 4 other passengers. One who worked for one of our top corporate accounts. One who was legitimately a frequent flyer, can't remember the other reasons, but by the time I went to board the flight I had to tell SB that I was sorry but business class was full and couldn't offer him an upgrade today. The teacher I upgraded profusely thanked me again when she boarded with the rest of the business class passengers. Little did she know that it really made my day also. There were no repercussions to my actions. We rarely upgraded passengers randomly so it wasn't something that caught management's attention, and they mostly trusted our judgment on these things. But, like many customer service jobs I'm sure, if you were nice to us we would go out of our way to help you. If you were not nice to us, we would apply the rules very strictly. Our boss did watch baggage like a hawk though. If you printed more bag tags than the passenger allowance without collecting the excess fee it showed on your daily report and you would be asked about it at the start of your next shift. Can't take lunch because of training? I don't think so. In my mid-20s I worked for a multinational accounting firm. I have always had a real firm policy for standing up when something doesn't sound right, irrelevant if it puts me in an awkward position. This story is how I malicious complied and in turn made my director learn a lesson I hope she won't forget. We'll call her Karen, not her real name. Background on Karen. When she joined the team we all liked her, she made great changes and we got on well with her. But the moment she was promoted to director and had direct reporting to the partner, she flipped, became a complete different person and made our life hell. Previously she spent her career heading up call centers, which was really evident in her management style, and for some reason made it her mission to cut costs in the team and go under budget. This affected everything from telling us we didn't have a stationary budget for pens and had to take from other team stores to only allowing a one drink, one course policy on team dinner events. This was a huge company and other teams around us would go for fancy all expenses paid social events so we felt pretty put out. Her cost cutting also extended to things like no overtime approvals unless way in advance, that didn't last long as we were understaffed so quickly emergencies weren't dealt with, and hiring school leavers instead of graduates as they were cheaper, despite the work needing more experience. Her favorite saying to everything was it's policy or blaming HR or higher-ups saying whatever new thing even if a new irrelevant spreadsheet, would come from HR. Honestly the amount of time HR spent on our lil team in a company with 20k plus UK employees was astounding. Then came the day she booked an all-day training session from some external company to show us how to use a new system. She went on about it for weeks, was super excited that she had brought in this new system. The training was intense, so freaking technical, mind-numbing and most of all expensive. So what would normally be covered over a few days was crammed into one full day. They were paid hourly. Shock. She sent an email advising how we're expected to attend. It will go through the whole day and lunch would be provided but it will be a working lunch so training would also be through lunch. Needless to say, the thought of sitting in a stuffy room for 8 hours without a lunch break wasn't appealing. I asked for an exception as I really relied on going outside for the hour at lunch for a break. I was in the midst of high anxiety at the time and my breaks got me through. She said it's policy that we would be expected to change our work day around to fit training and there is no policy that requires her to allow me to go out. If I had an issue, should check the HR manual. I think until now, this statement usually worked for her as no one really ever checked. I went one better. I went to HR. Cue malicious compliance. Using the effective wording of for my mental health and well-being HR replied, and of course disagreed as UK law mandates training as work and an 8-hour day requires at least 1 hour break, which I am allowed to choose what I do with. They CC'd Karen. Karen backed down but verbally told me it was an exception for me and to not share with the rest of the team. Of course I didn't comply, she was breaking the law. So I showed the email chain to everyone as they were complaining about the same thing. So me and the rest of the team came up with a lil plan. Sandwiches were delivered, budget sandwiches of course, from the supermarket down the road. Instead of our slightly more expensive internal catering team who caters for this exact type of thing for our 10-floor building. I stood up and announced I was going on lunch and would be back in an hour. Cue the rest of the team, all 12, standing up after me. Karen goes, "Where are you all going?" To which someone replied, "I understand that HR said we were allowed to leave the room for the hour for lunch." The look on her face. She knew she was stuck. She couldn't say anything. We left her in there alone with the two trainers who seemed to guess something was up. I've never felt more satisfied in my life. We all had a good laugh about it outside. I think I even did a happy dance. She also knew she couldn't complain to me about it, as that would highlight her breaking the rules. I felt like I was walking on air all day. After this, there was much less blaming of HR, and generally she was a little skittish around me because she knew I didn't take her crap and would call her out. A second training session had to be booked since the training would never have worked in one day. There were lots of moans and groans about how expensive the extra training session costs, of course. I left a couple of months afterwards, and so did pretty much the rest of my team, replaced by school leavers, of course. But I'm very glad I complied. I believe Karen still works there, but for a much smaller team. That's all the time we have. If you would like to hear another insane Reddit story, check out my latest video. With that said, I'll see you next time with more stories.